young and I don't know no other ways. I've been balling for the moment, but can't sight the better days. You fell off and now you lost the shit that you was just a phase. I became this on my own, no, this is not how I was raised.
All right, so back with another talk with a podcast to shed some light on something that's popping up all the time, but been popping up as of recent, and I feel like I have to keep talking about, which is kids not understanding the value and the importance of the little things. I hate even saying the phrase "the little things" because it's so cliche and it goes in one ear out the other. But the fact of the matter is that most of the time, the little things are the X factor as to why kids are getting opportunities, kids are getting scholarships, kids are getting in games and making teams as youth players, middle school players. So, you know, I got a lot to say about it, and a lot of things I could point you to of how you should, you know, start thinking about it, and things that you can reference to really wrap your head around it. But I'm gonna let you get your take on it first. I guess in the academy, you know, what's your take on the whole thing, or how you would explain it to somebody of what the little things is and how, you know, why it's so important?
Well, for starters, the little stuff's what we ask of a lot from the kids. We always make the reference to the kids, like, you know, we're not asking you to do something that takes a whole lot of skill. Like, we're not asking you to do a crazy move, step back three. We're not asking for that. You know, we're asking for, you know, help defense, talk to your teammates, you know, drop in to help, you know, play them to their weak hand, like all that stuff, little stuff. That matters. We had a game last week. He was coaching one team, I was coaching the other, and it was just like night and day compared to the little things they were doing on the court, like getting back on defense, setting up an offense. And the score ended up being terrible. Like, it was a lot to not a lot. And It was because of just them not doing the simple stuff that we ask of all the time. And it wasn't like the teams skill-wise were different. They were almost identical.
Yep.
And it was just like, okay, the team I was coaching was setting up the offense, waiting for their screens, setting screens, rolling correctly, talking to each other as they roll, popping out. Stuff like that.
And so it's no mystery as to why the score, you know, one team does it, score a lot of points, the other team doesn't, don't score a lot of points. Like,
and then when you come off of those screens and stuff like that, they're waiting for them, like, they're getting open good buckets.
Yeah.
It's not a tough play.
Right.
Or a tough shot.
That's the biggest thing I try to get people to understand, the kids to understand, which I needed to understand myself when I was younger. It's just because you can get a shot, or just because you do have the skill to do this, that, and the third, doesn't mean that that's what you should be doing. Because, you can do it, but even the best kids that do it, if they go 10 possessions in a 5-on-5 game, 10 possessions here, I want you to just come down, no passes, nothing, and just try to get a bucket. Yeah. They're going to score 2 out of 10, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. You know, and so that's what I think most kids don't understand. But, like, the biggest way I could explain it or try to get someone to wrap their head around it is, you just don't understand. Like, the kids look at basketball in this one little bubble, in this one little space. They think the game of basketball is when they have the ball in their hand and they're trying to score.
Correct.
A lot of kids look at it that way. So until you get out of that bubble, you can't understand what's going to actually make you a good player. It actually makes them bad players. It makes them skilled players, but bad players.
Makes them look like bad players.
And
you put a kid who has all the skill and natural talent into, like, you know, even like a one-on-one scenario, that's a little different.
Yeah, one-on-one's different.
It's different.
But the game isn't one-on-one.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But if you put a kid through certain drills where it involves handling and shooting and even maybe, you know, finishes, they're going to look really good.
Right.
But you put that same kid in a 5-on-5 scenario with real defense, real talk, that one-on-one play that they like to do 1-on-5, it doesn't work out often.
Right. It's too hard, you know? Yeah. I remember when I stopped the film the other day, I'm like, oh, look at this play. I remember I asked, I'm like, does that look like a hard play? The kid came off this ball screen, hands up, in and out cross, step through Euro, and spin off the side of the bucket off the side of the backboard layup, I'm like, guys, does that look like a hard play or easy play?
Yeah, that's a 1 out of 10 play. And then say you do 10 plays like that, 8 of them you're going to be out of control because you're trying to do too much.
Yep.
And the kids feel the pressure when they're trying to do that much. They know they just did a bunch of stuff prior to.
Exactly.
So
yeah. And so I think trying to get, so nobody wants to hear that though. You know what I mean? Like to a kid, I get it. It sounds boring. But so for me, I bring it back to this. Like every college does this. Every Division III, Division I, II, JUCO, everybody does this where you have these player efficiency stats, your plus and minus, which means if I'm in the game, my plus, am I adding to our team's differential? When I'm in the game, are we winning the game or losing the game? What's the score look like when I'm in the game? The plus minus, right? And that plus minus is never based off of your step back, your euro, your ability to handle the basketball and make a certain move, how far you shoot it. It's never based off of that stuff. You know what I mean? If we were playing one-on-one and basketball was one-on-one, which is, again, I think that little bubble, kids view basketball as one-on-one. Like they don't even really, I'm not really a basketball player. I just play one-on-one basketball.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of kids, I don't think they mean to say it that way, but if I just look at the actions and not the words, you're not really a basketball player. You just are like a one-on-one kid at the gym, you know what I mean?
And I think that goes back to, though, like the type of, I don't want to say talent, because talent's not the word. The type of play that they're used to.
Yeah.
You can play 1-on-5 in a game where no one's playing defense.
Right.
And they're used to that, most of them. And this is the younger ages, not the high school kids, because every high school team, doesn't matter where you're at, they play defense.
Right.
But, 8th grade and below, kids get away. But even when you're in 8th grade, like, kids are bigger, faster, stronger by then. So that might not work so much. But when you get the 6 down,
Yep.
7 sometimes down, there is a lot of 1-on-5 because no one's playing defense.
Right. Yeah.
So you can get away with that stuff, but once you get in the realm with some kids who are now playing at a different level,
take 10 6th graders who are being serious.
Yep. It's a lot different.
A lot different. Yeah, for sure. And so I think it's like if most of these kids, because most of the kids who are that talented or have that much skill, in their mind, they're headed off to college hoops. That's their goals and dream. So it's like, okay, well, these people you're trying to impress, the way that they're going to say whether they give you the scholarship or not is based off of this player efficiency plus and minus stuff.
Zero to do with what you're doing on the
Zero to
weekends,
do with
scoring
what
all
you
your
keep
buckets.
talking about. Yeah. What's the plus and minus? Boxing out, closing out, did you hedge or not? Like everybody has their own little stuff. Some coaches want to focus on different things, but it's all intangibles. Some of it might be like deflection. I mean, technically deflection is might as well be an intangible because it's not on a stat sheet. When you go look at a box score, deflection isn't even on a stat sheet. So like everybody's little core principles, it's not your shooting percentage. Your shooting percentage is usually not on a player efficiency or a plus or minus thing. When the coach hands out the sheet at the end of the game, it doesn't have your shooting percentage on there most of the time. So even something like that. And now I'm not saying talent and scoring and all that doesn't matter, because there is a threshold. Like you don't even get to where you're going unless you have. You don't even where you get to where you're going. But once you get there, it's almost irrelevant because every kid on the roster has it.
Yep, that's why they're there in the first place.
That's why they're there. So it's not special at that point. And what we talk about, to go back to, okay, let's say you're a 6th grader and you are good enough to kind of just go 1-on-5 where you play and you keep scoring. That's because you're not playing anybody. It's because you're not playing a whole bunch of kids who are on that level. But put you in a gym with a whole gym of kids who do that at their own respective places, it's going to be a different deal.
Yep.
It's going to be a different story. So that's how I think any coach, parent out there, you're like, how can I get my kid to understand this without sounding just like an old dad or something and get it through their head? That's it to me. It's like, okay, you want to go to Pitt? You want to play at Duke? Okay, I said this, I posted this morning. I'm like, go watch the press conference after the game of your favorite college coach's team. Listen to what he's going to talk about in that press conference. A lot of the times they have the sheet right there in front of them. You'll see they'll be talking and they'll be looking down and they'll be like, we yada, 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 our plus minus and yada, yada, yada. They're not talking about the Euro step that you made. Nobody, you know what I mean? because everybody's doing that anyway. If you just do a one-on-one, it's completely irrelevant. It's like I'm giving the scholarships to the kids who are gonna do the things that we expect our kids to do at our program, which is all these intangible.
I mean, you can use the example that I used earlier, like our game last Friday. That's technically the same stuff that a college coach is talking. Well, no, it's not technically. It is.
It is
the same stuff they're talking about. Because, like going back to where you said, if you have 6 kids on the floor or 5 kids on the floor or whatever, how many you have, that all were on that same level. There's a big difference between a kid who can go 1-on-5 and he just does that.
Yeah.
Compared to a kid who goes 1-on-5, he's a good teammate, he hustles, he doesn't take a play off, he talks on defense.
Yeah.
Like
who
that's,
you going with?
That's a bigger difference.
Even if the kid is able to score 30, 40 points, it's like, okay, I'll still take the kid who's scoring 16, but doing all these other things. So remember I said the other day when I think we were playing that older 8th grade team. Remember I said to the kids, I said, if you guys aren't going to screen off the ball, Beckham's going to score 40.
Oh, yeah,
He's
and we're still going to lose.
And we're going to lose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he can score the points, but, as far as, and even, sometimes, like, even a Beckham or kids like that we have, he's still a good example of doing other things. He still will do some other things. But even if, so when you go to the team concept, okay, let's say you have one kid who can score that much. If the other 4 aren't committed to doing all the other things, you still can't win the game.
But that in itself, like I was just saying, that takes a different kind of kid. Like, it's one thing to go out there and really be determined to get your 30 or 40.
Yeah.
But you could leave it at that. In this aspect, like a kid like Beckham, they want that 20 or 30, but they also want the steals. They want the rebounds.
And they want to win.
They want to win.
They want to win the game. Yeah. Kids like that, you wouldn't say, hey, would you rather have 45 and lose, or would you rather have 25 and win? They're going with 25 and win. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big difference maker. And it just, the thing that irks me so much, and that you just want to grab a kid and just let them like, hey, you got to get this right now, is when they only do that. Like you said, are you only getting the ball and going 1-on-5? Like, when that's the only thing you do, to me, it's just flabbergasting. Like, you shouldn't even play on a team then. You should just be around the neighborhood, show up at the rec centers, because at that point, you're not a basketball player.
Yeah, but a lot of kids don't know any better. And right now, that's all they see.
Yeah.
Like when they see, doesn't matter on what social media platform you're on, when you're seeing someone's highlights, it's never really defensive plays, unless it's the big man getting a couple blocks.
Right.
Like, it's never stuff like that. It's just, your flashy finishes, your nice shots.
Yep.
That's all the stuff they put out there.
Yep.
But even if you have a highlight reel of a kid that you're not familiar with and all you see is that, you still are going to have to dive into his games to see if he's a kid you're looking for.
100%. It's why you can't just send highlights for our high school kids to the D1 coaches and they say, cool, I want to offer the kid. No, I need to show up and
They're
see
going to
him.
say, I want to see him. I want to come watch a workout.
Yep.
Send one of my guys down to see him.
Yep.
And they want to see him against top tier kids.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right. So it's just, that's a great point, because, my last take on this is everything that is getting put. Let's say we have all these people now who are supposedly exposure platforms and the highest level platforms, but yet the only content that they put out, and the reason content is so important is why we're sitting here doing this right now. That's the only way kids even consume the sport.
Yep.
They only consume the sport through content. So content is basically everything. So the people who are the most popular at the moment and also advertise themselves as the highest level, the most exposure, the biggest showcase, the most important, if that's what you are, but yet the only things you put out never have anything to do with the people who are going to give you these opportunities for. Why do you want exposure in the first place? You want exposed to like these gatekeepers, these college coaches, these people giving out these opportunities. But yet that exposure is only based off of things that those coaches will never talk about.
Correct.
It's completely back.
But that's
the
narrative.
That's the narrative.
It takes someone like me and you, or coaches or mentors of the game or trainers somewhere else that actually know what the stuff a college coach is looking for, to grab that kid and say, hey, it's great, you can do this stuff. But if you want to keep going, you have to do all these things. And that's where
a post is
all
a
the
post.
Platforms look cool on the post, but like that guy who's making that post or that program who you're paying to come to their camp, to get that little $45, tape at the end of it. That they're not telling you, hey, this is cool for now, but like if you want to be like the kids on the other court who all got offers,
Yep.
you got to do a bunch of this stuff.
You got to do a bunch of this stuff. Yeah, and that's the disconnect for me. So that's why we just have to keep pounding it. Like we said in the last sit down we did was like, are we going to continue? Do we want to do what they do and just market and hype everything as showcase high level elite and put out a bunch of bullshit, or do we want to keep driving, the real thing?
Well, at the end of the day, it's do we want to have hundreds and hundreds of kids come through this program, go through the cycle, and then they leave? Or do you want to have hundreds and hundreds of kids come through the real deal, the ones who love it and want to do better, stick,
and then the majority of them,
and then it
keep
shows when
Yeah.
they get their offers.
Yeah.
And we have college coaches in here and all that good. Like that
Yeah.
is now for me and you. I know that it's the same thing. That's what we want to be here for.
Right.
But we could, like you said, we could do all the other stuff, but
Yeah.
that's not in our heart what we want to do.
Right. Although we know that's what's going on the most, but
Yeah.
it's up to that special 12-year-old out there, the special 11-year-old who somehow can grasp what the hell we're saying and recognize a post as a post, and recognize business as business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then recognize, okay, what is real basketball? My favorite player is Ja Morant. Let me go back to Ja Morant's high school and college footage, and let me see exactly what he was doing. Now, Ja Morant might be a horrible example because the kid is an uber freaking athlete. So maybe he wasn't really boxing out and closing out and doing all that shit because he was just dominating. But if you're not Ja Morant though,
Yeah.
you got to just back off of that conversation. You got to just leave that alone.
Well, I was earlier just watching a film, breaking some stuff down for one of our kids on REL 365, and after I was done watching, I came and said, yeah, he was scoring, but like you should see everything else he was doing. I was like, he's fun to watch because you don't know what he's going to do.
Right.
He might go touch half the top of the backboard to get a rebound after you box out,
Yeah.
or he might come down and throw a dunk down out of nowhere.
Right.
But he's playing defense, he's hustling, he's talking to his teammates. I didn't see that kid in that whole entire game one time put his head down, and this kid was getting face guarded, tough. I mean, getting fouled the whole game, face guarded. They were being rough with him. Never once backed down, never once complained to the refs. Just a solid kid you'd like to watch.
Yep.
Doing everything.
You got one of two ways to go. You either want fun and only fun, or you want real value in your sport, and that is going to bring fun in itself.
Yep.
Period. But a lot of kids are just too undisciplined and they just want fun and only fun. So all we can do is give you some info, give you a perspective, and hope a couple kids and parents out there, wrap their head around it. You got anything else? All right. And we got a bunch of other shit to do, so we'll see you next week.